This is a poll I'd like you to do. It just gives me a context as to who's on the call and what might be focused on. So if you can QR code that on your phone, it gives you the ability to vote, and the vote should come up live on the screen. So if you could just take a snapshot of that QR code, and then vote either how familiar are you with managing conflict. 100% so far. That's good. Whoever voted. It's all anonymous. I'm not collecting data, by the way. It's anonymous. Um, it's an anonymous thing. So you don't have to worry about me looking at it. We've got 5 votes in so far. This is very exciting. So we've got 76. Oh, look at this go. 8 people voted so far. This is great. It's the first time I've used Slido. So it's looks quite impressive to me. So we've got a sort of middle ranging, a little. We've got some varies there. That's good. 20% of you are very. So um, maybe you can give me some pointers. And 20% not at all. Okay, well that's 10 votes. That gives me a fair impression. I guess it's middle range is where we're at. Okay, so I've been coaching for around 16 years formally, and first thing I ask my clients when I get to coach them is, what's the biggest single issue? What's the elephant in the room that's bothering you? And it's this one: conflict. And I did a poll recently on LinkedIn, and this came up as the #1 issue: conflict which is unresolved. That's the elephant in the room. It took a little while to get that photo, so I hope it's been worthwhile. But conflict unresolved is the key issue that I've come across. Okay. Firstly, an honesty session from me. In my 20s, I was managing a sales team, and a salesperson wasn't performing. And it was pretty bad, to be honest with you. I let it go on for some time. I was procrastinating, and it was starting to affect the team. So I wasn't dealing with it. I wasn't dealing with the issue in hand. And I said to myself, right, tomorrow morning, I'm going to sort that thing out. So I plucked up the courage to do that. I went home and I didn't eat anything and I didn't sleep. And then I came in the following morning and I said, Mary, we need to have a chat. So me and Mary went to the office. She was nervous. I was nervous and scared, and we had a conversation. Well, it wasn't a conversation. It was me telling her how bad she was. It was me telling her how it wasn't working. And she tried to defend herself, and I didn't listen. So she got upset, left the room, and within a few months, or a few weeks, to be honest, she'd left the business. So it was a disaster. It was my first attempt at managing conflict, and it wasn't a good feeling. So I absolutely know what it's like to get it wrong. And after that, and another few failed attempts, I was determined to get it right. So we're going to talk about communicate to resolve conflict. Without resolution, there's a real danger of losing people, stagnation, or worse, losing a lot of people and going backwards. So progress comes through conflict resolution, tough as it may be. Now, before I start, I just want to say conflict in a business isn't a bad thing as long as it's constructive. You often have opposing views to develop ideas, that kind of thing, and that's all fine. That works. But it's the unhelpful conflict that isn't working for anyone. That's the conflict we're going to focus on. So we're going to do it in 6 stages, the way to move through conflict. 6 stages to work through. First 2, motivation to take it on and make it happen. Second one is going to be 4-step preparation plan. That's going to be the important steps. Next one is going to be the ideal communication style. There's 3 communication styles to choose from. There's one you should use. Definitely one you should use out of the 3, and we'll talk about that in a little bit of detail. Then we're going to do the common mistakes, things to avoid, and make sure you don't do the mistakes I've done on many occasions. And the last 2, 5-step resolution framework, which is how you get through the meeting, how you make the resolution happen. And there's some bonus slides at the end, depending on timing. We've got a couple of bonus slides about questions. Questions will be a repeated point during this webinar. And as I say, if you've got questions, please give me a shout and I'll try and answer them through the presentation. If not, I'll take them offline. Okay, quick intro. That's me. Last week, it's been a tough week. Actually, no, that was me about 30 odd years ago, taking on my first big role in MD of a Yorkshire newspaper group. So I haven't aged particularly well, I must say. A little bit of background: I've been in leadership since the 1980s. Rose to position CEO. I've been in corporate, but I don't like corporate, so I moved out into my own business. So I became an entrepreneur, sold businesses, purchased businesses, and did all that. I work with corporates now, but I just wasn't happy in one. I'm a trained ILM leadership and executive coach, trained in London, and I've coached the UK, US governments. I was over in America for a year or so last year in Washington, and I'm back now, which is nice. And I'm in Cambridge, married, 3 children, ex-DJ in the 80s, and a golfer with exceptionally bad luck. Me. Right, we'll move on to motivation, because it is a key point, motivation. From my experience in business and coaching, the wider effect of conflict tends to be underestimated. And I've made numerous excuses myself as to why things will work out, things will change on their own, and effectively 99% of the time they don't. So it's a matter of thinking about the wider issues that damage of unresolved conflict. This is Chartered Management Institute 2023. 45% of employees said conflict damaged team cohesion. So teamwork went out the window for almost half the people if there's unresolved conflict, which is significant. Poor leadership making people suffer. Damage of unresolved conflict. 20% quit due to poor conflict resolution. That's People Management 2023 survey. So that's 20% of your workforce. That's a significant lump of people walking out the door. And I did a bit of research into companies and what unresolved conflict effect it had on their business. And on Lego, just as an example, Lego, the big toy manufacturer, 250 million it cost them in unresolved conflict, staff issues. ChatGPT, 300 million due to unresolved conflict and conflict being left. And Uber, which is pretty well publicized, and you all know Uber pretty well, I guess, 5.5 billion, because conflict wasn't dealt with. So let's have a look at the positive side of resolving conflict. Impact of resolved conflict: 70% say effective mediation reduces stress. And stress, as you probably know, is a big factor in absenteeism. So if you can reduce stress, fantastic. So dealing with conflict reduces stress in the workforce, reduces absenteeism. And proactive conflict saves 9 grand per employee per year. I think that's a bit more, to be honest. I think that's quite a bit higher than that through opportunity costs, staff recruitment, and lost profits, etc. But that's CIPD. That's what they said. So that spurs me on. If I have to think about, have to deal with a difficult conversation, that's what I can do. That's positive, and the other stuff negative. The other thing that crops up quite a bit, I think, on LinkedIn, which is, and I think it's a great line, is nothing will make a great employee exit faster than watching you tolerate a bad one. And I've watched that. That's happened to me. Great employees get absolutely frustrated with people being allowed to get away with stuff. And I remember being an MD running a corporate, and I inherited a corporate or was sent into it to sort it out, and it was in bad shape. And I had to do some resolution of one or two difficult people, and I prevaricated again, and I didn't act quickly enough. And my CEO rang me up and said, "You've got to get on with it. You know the 7 people we've got to deal with." I said, "Yeah, I know the 7 people we've got." I said, "Just give me a bit more time." And he said, "The 7 people you need to deal with need to be dealt with this week. Think about it as if the 7 people, if you deal with those 7 people, you'll save the 120, which is the entire workforce. So dealing with the 7, get the culture sorted out, get the energy in the business sorted out. By sorting out the 7, the 120 move upwards in their energy, and the culture is improved. And that stuck with me, the CEO shouting or mentioning that to me down the phone. And there's obviously the ripple effect, which I mentioned earlier. It's really comfortable to leave it. And that drop in the middle is the conflict issue, and the ripple effect around the organization, the pain that it causes. The earlier you tackle conflict, the better. It avoids the negative ripple in the organization. So don't let the ripple spread throughout the organization. Tackle conflict as early as possible. Don't excuse yourself from it. Think about the negatives that will happen and the positives that you can bring to the business. Okay, I want to do another vote, if that's okay. What emotions do you most often feel during managing conflict? So that's when you notice the conflict through to having to deal with it. If you could vote again, please, that'd be great to get an understanding of what you feel when you're trying to manage conflict and how it sort of impacts you as an individual. And yeah, anxiety is, I guess that would be quite high anxiety, and so that's anxiety issues. Obviously, anxiety is a top issue, which is why preparation is key to this whole exercise. So, four-step preparation guide. Clarity. Clarity is key. Clear your mind. Avoid frustration or anger. It's key. Calm yourself down. It fuels rather than relieves tension when you get angry or frustrated or annoyed, especially yourself. If you're not sort of getting it sorted out, sometimes you get really annoyed at yourself because I should be dealing with it. I should be getting that sorted out. And you get a bit wound up and frustrated, but that's not very helpful. How you do that? Take deep breaths, go for a walk, meditation, if you like, whatever you need to do to clear your mind. It's the first step of the preparation. And clarity of outcome. What do you want from the meeting? What do you want to be discussed, and how are you going to get that sorted out? What's the outcome? It may be you go around the houses a little bit in the meeting to get there, but what do you actually want to achieve at the end of the resolution? Okay. Second point is think it through carefully. And this is all about assumptions. Challenge your assumptions. Identify the narrative running in your head. Notice if it's based on facts or assumptions or any bias that you may have. Is it real or is it assumptions? What stories am I telling myself about this person or situation? Identify which part of the situation is getting you down, which is the biggest bit. You can ask yourself, is it about Frank, the issue with Frank, or is it bigger than that, i.e., respect, control, fairness, or whatever? So make sure you have the key issue in mind and try and imagine it from their point of view, the other person's point of view. And what might I be missing? Try and shift from they're wrong, or they're in trouble, or they're an issue, to I wonder what's going on underneath the surface. Try and gather information from trusted sources. And curiosity is a key point to remember. Keep curious about it, but gather information from trusted sources. So that's the second bit. Third bit on preparation is key points and questions. And questions are going to be key. And we'll get onto those a little bit later, but the questions are going to be key to this whole resolution. Prepare, but no script. Aim for clarity, but not control. Important point. Scripting makes it too regimented. And in a meeting, if it does get heated, you don't want to try to be regimented because that's when it will start to unravel. You can write down your thoughts, all good, gather information, definitely, but don't do a script. Key points and questions. When it gets heated, and I've had a few heated meetings in my time, you can freeze. It can be a freezing situation and get blindsided. Notes will save you. And questions, having questions ready, saving questions, which we'll get onto later, that kind of help you redress a situation, that will really help you. Leadership is all about questions. The questions you ask shape the conversations and shape the interaction. And this one sounds obvious, but people sometimes aren't. Be authentic and adaptable. Be prepared to be interested. And I've sat in meetings as a sort of witness or whatever, and I've seen people stare out the window, which hasn't been a good look. But be authentic, be genuine, be curious, and adaptable, because it won't be a perfect meeting. You'll rehearse it in your mind, and you'll have this preparation done. But be prepared for the fact it's going to go a little bit left or right. Perfect meetings don't happen; they just don't. Um, and if you obviously during the meeting take notes with intention to show that you're interested and you're listening. Last point, which is pretty obvious, sorry, safe place. Find a safe, confidential, secure place to have that conversation. Um, Private, neutral, ensure you both have time to talk without rushing, no mobiles, obviously, no interruptions. And then you'll have a clear run at it. Safe, confidential, and secure. Okay, just a quick summary of that because it is important. The preparations reduce anxiety. The more prepared you are, the better you're going to be with dealing with anxiety as it comes up. Tell yourself you've got it. You have got this. Clear and calm, first thing. Clear on the outcome, options, and boundaries. What do you want? What are my options? What are the boundaries I'm prepared to go to? Challenge your assumptions. Really important. Depending on the delay of the meeting, you may have assumptions building in your head. If you've got to wait a couple of weeks, or you've got to wait a week for someone to get back from holiday, or a couple of days for things to calm down because it got a bit out of hand, or they're away and they need to come back, assumptions can build. And it's kind of important not to let those overwhelm your conversation or your thinking. Challenge them. No scripts, as we said, key point, aim for a connection over perfection. Key points and questions. Aim for connection with the person over perfection of a perfect conversation. They don't happen. And a safe and secure environment. Communication style. This is fairly critical. As you probably know, there are 3 styles of communication. There's passive, there's assertive, and there's aggressive. They're the 3 styles. Passive kind of explains itself. Aggressive explains itself. But people do get confused between aggressive and assertive. Assertive is definitely a great way to communicate. Sorry about the picture, but that's the best assertive picture I could come up with that was offered to me by a search engine, which will remain nameless. Assertive communication. This is the ideal style. This is a style you want to be adopting in the communication of the 3. It's the most effective for leadership. It's the most effective for conflict resolution and for healthy resolution. Essentially, it's about maintaining your boundaries and respecting other people. So the motto of an assertive person, my needs matter, so do yours. It's straight, it's honest, it's clear, it's direct. The tone is calm and confident and respectful, and that's important. Calm. Sometimes it gets a bit fiery. Sometimes people can get a little bit upset in the meeting. You have to maintain the calmness throughout. And body language, open posture, steady eye contact, and a relaxed way of being. People know where they stand, if you like that. Excuse me. People know where they stand, and you want that. You want them to be clear on who you are, what you're about. But the key thing is you're curious about what they're about. So that style of communication is ideal. If you can adopt that, get into that mode for leadership, any kind of leadership, but for conflict resolution, that would be the ideal style. There are 5, and they're quite significant. But maybe 1 or 2 you thought of them already. But firstly, let me introduce you to the common mistake police, as I like to call them. You may recognize some of these people. These are the things not to do, and there are 5. Delay. You may have to delay because people are away, as I said earlier, or there's some trouble at mill and you need to wait for things to calm down. But if you delay too long, it allows the ripple to grow in your organization. It allows it to affect good people. Good people can start to leave because of the delay in in the conflict resolution is starting to affect them. It really can cost you money. It costs you culture, and people could leave. So delay is a bad thing. It can make a small problem big by delaying. So avoid that if you possibly can. Sugarcoat your spin. Don't waffle or go around in circles. Clarity is a must. Be clear and assertive. That way you will get them to understand you and you'll understand them. Never personalize. It may sound a bit odd, but it's not. It's about behavior, not the person. You may want to punch the person, but don't do that. It's about the behavior, and that's what you want to focus on, their behavior. It could be around peg in a square hole scenario. I had an FD once a while ago and inherited him, and he was a nice, really nice guy, really great chap. I liked him a great deal, but he was very passive, really, really passive. And his team didn't really know what to make of him. He didn't communicate with them very well. And they tended to go around in circles with what they were supposed to be doing. And he kind of lost the respect. So it was very challenging in terms of the team of 10 that he had. So we put him on training, getting support, had meetings and trying to develop him, but it just wasn't working out. And in the end, the meeting was about round peg and square hole. You're a lovely bloke, terrific guy. Um, but round peg in a square hole wasn't really cut out for the senior management role, or certainly leading role, or we couldn't get that to work anyway. So round peg in square hole wasn't personal, it was about his behaviors. As my old boss used to say to me, shut up and listen. And he said that quite a few times. Don't talk too much. If someone asked me the other day about a percentage, and I said, well, it's probably 70% them talking, 30% you talking. You want to make sure they are heard. Them being heard is critical to the resolution. If they're not heard, nothing happens because you won't resolve it. You won't understand it. So try and keep your talking down, two ears, one mouth, and all that equation. Finally, really criminal mistake, ambiguous end. Sounds like a medical condition, but it's not. It's ending of a meeting. Make sure it's not ambiguous. The words what, how, and when, they're great questions. If you say, let's chat in a few weeks, or let's, bad, really not good. It's got to be defined, and we'll get to how you define it in a moment, but never have an ambiguous ending. So people are left thinking, what's next? Okay, exciting. It's a poll time again. Last poll we're going to have. What do you find most difficult about this whole thing? You've got a meeting in mind. Is it the build up to the meeting where you're sort of working out what you're going to be saying? Oh, 100%. Or the discussion, right? Okay, great. We're going to move on to that in a second. Build up, opening the meeting where there's nerves are high, or the conclusion or follow up. Okay. So it's sort of, well, there you go. Let's split a third. That's neat. Okay, build up. That's when the anxiety kicks in, I think, and that's where the preparation is fairly key. Okay, that's 8 votes. That gives me a good impression to build up the discussion. Okay, fine. Yeah, the build up. Build up. Good. I hope you enjoy those slides. It's the first time I've used them, and it seems to work pretty effectively. So that's always useful. Certainly useful for me as a presenter to understand what's being thought out there. 5-step framework. Now I'm going to show you the 5 steps in one go, so I don't want to overwhelm you, but this is a theory. Okay. It's about assertive, calm, and clear opening, listening actively, clarify and validate, state your needs, and collaborate on solutions. We'll go into each one of those with a few slides for each part. But the really important thing is to remember, meetings evolve, conversations evolve. Okay. It's about connection, not perfection. Don't be too rigid about what you have to do at certain points. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You don't have to achieve 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It will go left, it will go right. The main thing is you're connecting, you're listening, you're understanding. That's pretty crucial. So we're going to take a close look at each of those 5. But again, this theory is absolutely spot on, and a perfect meeting would go in that shape. But no meeting that I've ever attended is perfect. So the first one, assertive, calm, and clear. Now, This is some clear blue water. Um, it's how I think when I go into a difficult meeting, or what I see as a difficult meeting, a meeting to resolve a conflict, and I think it's going to be a bit challenging. I always visualize this: clear, calm mind. I even think about my feet being in there, if you want the truth. I just think, okay, let's just calm down, hear the ripples of the water, put your feet in there, calm, calm, calm. Take the pressure off yourself. It won't always go to plan. Again, aim for connection over perfection. So keep calm and clear. Oops, sorry. Pause before reacting. The reason I put that first, excuse me, is I had a meeting once, maybe about 10 years ago, and I was sitting there calmly, and the guy I was seeing was late. And I knew he was a bit angry. I got a sense that he was a bit angry from previous conversations. And he walked into the meeting room and he started shouting at me, from word go. It was and I really wanted to stand up and say something back in broken French or something, but I didn't. And I'm really glad I didn't, because that would have been awful. So key thing, pause before reacting. It also, if you pause before reacting, shows that you're listening, even if they're being a little bit aggressive. If you jump straight in with your own reaction, that doesn't help. Um, so focus on the issue, not the person. It's about pausing before reacting. Again, facts, not assumptions. Never stray or get drawn into irrelevance, because there'll be some red herrings thrown in, or some anger thrown in, some irrelevance thrown in. So stick to facts. Make sure it stays relevant and focused, and go deep and go wide. A great HR director I used to work with said, "Go deep instead of wide. Do not go wide." Sorry, I've misquoted myself there earlier. Go deep, not wide. It's really important. Get to the facts and go down a few levels to get to the real issues. Don't go wide on various conversations that are not too relevant. Okay. Resolution is what it's all about, not retaliation. Another thing to remember, you're not debating anything, you're discussing. You're not trying to win. You're not looking for a score. You're looking for a resolution. So you're not looking to debate an issue. You're looking to discuss an issue and get to that resolution, rather than any sort of retaliation that you may have in mind. And it is easy. You've got to try and get out of that. If you have anger or frustration with the person you're dealing with, that's got to be left out of the room. Start calmly, assertively, and outline reasons. And we'll get onto those in the next slide. But being calm and assertive and outline reasons sets the tone of the meeting. And that's the important bit, setting the tone for the meeting. Okay. I've done a couple of lists of questions which are kind of important. So we're going to go through. There's three on each side. So the first thing is to ask yourself. So when you're sitting there about to go into the meeting, or sitting in a meeting waiting for it to start, these are really important. Leadership is all about questions you ask yourself and questions you ask other people. Am I grounded and emotionally regulated right now? What outcome do I want from this conversation? Am I showing up respectfully and confidentially? Oh, sorry, confidently. Three questions to ask yourself. There are others, but I think they're the three key ones to me. Are you grounded and regulated and emotionally? What outcome am I looking for? Am I showing up with respect? And am I confident? Am I okay? And you are going to be okay. Okay, and these are three questions you might want to ask the person you're dealing with in the conflict resolution. I want to understand and explore options. Can we agree to keep this respectful? Oops, sorry. We can solve this. Oops. We can solve this. I'm here to make that happen. And last one. What would help you feel comfortable in the conversation? These are all great questions to start. There are many others. I just plucked out these three because they ones I've used in the past when I've had a challenging meeting. Valuable way to start off. It's calm, confident, assertive. What would help you feel comfortable in this conversation? You care, you're empathetic. Okay. Next stage is listening actively. And this is obviously a critical stage. Listen to understand, not to respond. You're not debating, you're having a discussion. Always pause before responding. That's the order. You're not debating, you're discussing, pause before responding. And reflect back what you hear. People are open to hearing you when they've been heard. So if they've been heard, they're going to listen to you. If they feel they haven't been heard, they won't get involved with what you have to say because you haven't fully understood. So that's why the order of the meeting, if you can stick to this, is make sure you get this bit. They've got to be heard. They've got to be heard. Don't go to any conclusions until you've got the heard bit sorted out. A great line from a psychologist, Harriet Lerner, she said, defensiveness is the arch enemy of listening. So if you're in your mind, you're thinking something very defensive, you won't be listening. Be curious, not defensive. There's a great TED talk by Carleen Savage. It's worth looking up. She's a hostage negotiator. Great name for a hostage negotiator, Carleen Savage. She says, stay curious, ask questions, let them know they're being heard. It reduces attention. Just you listening reduces tension. It brings it down a notch, which is sometimes in these sort of meetings pretty critical. It might be a question like, can you tell me more about what led you to feel this way? Can you tell me more about what led you to feel this way? And a wonderful question after that, once they've told you an answer, is what else? It's two words. What else? That question is probably the most used question I do in coaching. What else? Because it gets you down another layer. If I say, oh, the problem's about Frank, I don't know who Frank is, but anyway, it comes to mind. The problem's about Frank. You might say, okay, I get that. Frank to problem. Put Frank to one side for a second. What else? And they'll tell you something else, blah, blah, blah. And you say, okay, I get that. It's Frank and what he's put that to one side for a second. What else? And that gets you deep down. And that's where you want to go. Deep down, find out the real reasons. Okay, ask yourself at this stage, am I listening to understand, not just reply? Am I interrupting or rushing them? If you're interrupting, they know you're not listening. If you're trying to make them rush through, okay, get on with it, that won't help. Never interrupt and never overlap your conversation. Always give them space. What emotional needs might be beneath their words? Think that through. And sometimes people go blurt, but underneath there is something much more important. And that's why you do the use of what else question. Questions to ask. Help me understand how you're feeling about this. Help me understand how you're feeling about this. What's most important for you in this? And what's been frustrating or challenging from your perspective? You care, you've got empathy, you want to understand, you want to find out. And I just got to throw it in. What else? If there's one thing you go away with from today, use that question if you ever want to resolve conflict, because that gets you down to a deeper level. Okay, let's go on to clarity and validity. Sorry, validating. Perspective. If you show that board to someone standing at the bottom, they'll say it's definitely a 6. Someone standing at the top, they'll say it's definitely a 9. That's the way it works. They're both right. Obviously, they've just got different perspectives of the same thing. It's definitely a 6 from the bottom. It's definitely a 9 from the top. Misunderstandings are at the heart of many conflict situations. It's misunderstanding. They're both right, but they're conflicted because they can't see each other's perspective, and that's what you need to sort out. So acknowledge their perspective. Really important. You can't resolve anything that hasn't been expressed clearly, and you need to encourage them. So acknowledging their perspective encourages them to talk more. And you can acknowledge their perspective without agreeing with it. As Aristotle, that famous Greek chap, said, it is a mark of an educated mind to be able to entertain a thought without accepting it. I'll say that properly, shall I? It is the mark of an educated mind to be able to entertain a thought without accepting it. So let it soak in, let yourself understand their position. You could say that makes sense given what you've experienced, or I can see why you feel that way, that sort of thing. Okay, Clarify what they're saying. Clarify what they're saying. That sounds frustrating. Is that how it felt? Avoid assumptions. Clarify before concluding. That clarity is going to be key. Okay, these questions. Ask yourself, am I truly clear on what they're saying? Have I got the message? Have I gone down deep enough to find out what the real problem is? Have I acknowledged their emotions and concerns? Have I done that? Have I been empathetic? Am I using vague language or am I being specific? Oops. So questions to ask. Let me check I've got this right. Are you saying blah, blah, blah? Can you give me an example of what you mean? Can you give me an example of what you mean? Shows understanding, shows empathy, shows interest. What would you like me to understand better? Again, opens the floor to them to talk more to get to the nub of the situation. There's a great quote by Harper Lee, who's an American novelist. You may have heard of her, you may have read some of her books. She says, you never really understand someone until you consider things from their point of view. And the point is really, you never really understand someone when you consider it from their perspective, from their point of view. Okay, step 4. Um, state your needs. This is being assertive again. Really important point. And some people make this mistake, and I've seen it many times, and I've been in these sort of meetings. They use I statements, and they use you statements, and they should be using I statements. Using I statements removes blame. Just give you an example of that. It could be you always seem to have a different point of view, and I've heard that exact line. You've always got a different point of view. What's wrong with you? Um, you could say instead of that, I need us to be aligned. I need us to be aligned rather than you've always got a different point of view. You're stating what you need. I need us to be aligned. Another one, you never listen. You never listen to me. And you could say, I feel unheard when you interrupt. So again, you're being caring, you're being assertive, you're allowed to understand. But you statements are accusatory. You don't want to be accusatory. You want to allow them to hear what you're feeling and use I statements makes that happen. Okay. Don't rush this part. Future focus when you're talking about, you'll start to eke into solutions. And we'll get onto that when we go through the questions. But be kind and clear. Stay solution focused rather than blame. And there's questions at the end I can show you. So, and be specific. What's not working and what you need. What's not working and what you need. Vague needs are equal unmet needs. If you're vague, you can't get them met. So name the behavior or change you're asking for. So ask yourself, am I being honest about what I need without blaming? By using I statements, you can do that. You can achieve that. Have I owned my part of the situation? Am I framing my needs in a constructive way? And what you could ask the colleague or the person you're working with, would it be okay if I shared what I need? I want to work with you. How can you help me? I want to work with you. How can you help me? I want to reach a fair compromise. Will you help me? You're stating the case. I want to reach a fair compromise. That's my goal. Without honesty, you achieve nothing because you'll have another conflict meeting in a couple of weeks' time. Okay, last step on the resolution framework is collaboration on solutions. You want to get co-created solutions. Let go of the idea of needing to win or being right. It's not about that. You can brainstorm options together. Be open to their ideas. At this point in the conversation, hopefully they're more relaxed, they've been heard, they've been understood, you're starting to get on the same page. And if they're stuck, offer options. Don't offer orders. Orders, no. Offer options. And then you can discuss those options. Focus on shared goals. Remind them and yourself of what really matters. What are the goals of this meeting, the mission or the work or the relationship? What are the goals? And focus on those. Be ready to build, but also fix. So you fix it and then build on it. Fix it and build on it. And don't jump to your own solution. Listen to theirs. That's a really important point. Don't say, well, this is what we're going to do, right? You've got this. No, no, no. Listen to them. Have a discussion about it. Next point, agree next steps. Nail those down. Be specific. Agree on next steps, timelines, accountability. Who will do what by when? What can we each commit to here? What can we commit to here to make it happen? And check-in points. Acknowledge things might take time or go a bit sideways. Agree to follow up. Be specific. Agree to follow up. Check progress. That maintains the trust that you've built up. So check-in points. Okay, and last thing, if on the 5 steps, if emotions are still high, and they sometimes will be, it won't always be perfect. It'll be difficult sometimes. The emotions are high, clarity is low. If you need to take a break, that's fine. Take a break. Let's take time to reflect. Let's have a pause. Time out. It's fine. That's what you need to do. That's what you need to do. Don't push through. If you need to stop, stop. That's what happens sometimes. Okay, ask yourself 3 questions. Am I flexible and open to compromise? Knowing your boundaries. Am I flexible and open to compromise? Have we both contributed to the solution? Have we both contributed to the solution? Have I just told him what to do or told her what to do, which would be bad? Next one. Is this genuine? Is it a genuine agreement or a surface level fix? Surface level fix, you'll be back in the room in a month. It won't work. It's got to be a genuine agreement. Okay. Things to ask the colleague or the person you're dealing with. What would a good outcome look like for you? Understand what they want to achieve. Make sure you're on the same page. Can we agree on what success looks like 1 month from now? Again, you're going forward focus, forward on solutions. Would it help to pause and pick up again later? And if that's a yes, fine. Let's meet again tomorrow, 11 o'clock. Be detailed over that. So there's questions to ask yourself, questions to ask the person. Okay, so the framework. Stay calm, be assertive. Listen actively, invite their perspective. Make sure you invite their perspective and listen to it. Clarify and validate. Be specific about what you need. I statements, not you. Don't do blaming. I statements. And collaborate on solutions and end on agreement, hopefully, and next steps and check-in points, or a timeout. Timeouts are fine. That's what may happen from time to time. And you meet again very shortly. Okay. The quote I just wanted to raise, a friend of mine, Paul Lewis, I'm not sure if he's on the call, but anyway, Paul Lewis recommended a book called Fierce Conversations, and I recommend it if you're into solving these sort of issues. Fierce Conversations, the conversation is not about the relationship, the conversation is the relationship. Think about that when you're in the meeting, when you're having a conversation. Think about the conversation being the relationship, and that will develop over time. That's why the questions are so important. Your style of communication, being assertive, is so important, and the listening is so important because that's the relationship. Be empathetic. And her book, Fierce Conversations, she describes it. Fierce isn't about being obviously hangry or anything. It's about being assertive, passionate, honest, and real. Conversations that matter are honest. Conversations that don't matter are disingenuous. Don't bother having those. They're a waste of energy. Okay, I've got 10 minutes, I think. So we've got a couple of bonus slides. Let's just check. Is everyone happy for me to do some bonus slides? Think so? They're really good. Okay. These help stop Okay. Let's get my screen back just a second, guys. Can you see the presentation again? Great. Okay. Leadership questions, pretty crucial. Phrasing your questions to get the right result. So these are three questions I've heard in the last year actually, and these are problem-focused questions. What's wrong with what you're currently doing? Why are you doing so badly? What's the main reason for the difficulty? And they invite conflict. They invite not the right answers or not they escalate the problem potentially. So how would you phrase those differently? If you look at the end of the question, it's quite important. What is it you'd like to be better at? That changes the dynamic of the conversation immediately. What is it you'd like to be better at? Next one, why are you doing so badly? Rephrase it. What are you aiming to achieve? Again, the end of it is where you get the key psychological trigger to happen, aiming to achieve rather than doing so badly. And what's the main reason for your difficulty? Change that to what key issues would you like to solve? Again, at the end of the question, like to solve rather than your difficulty. They change the dynamic of the conversation. Okay, three more. Why have you taken on such an impossible task? What things make it so hard to improve? And why will it be difficult for you to get any better? Again, they're problem-focused questions which aren't particularly helpful. This is better. What's the one thing you could do differently to create a better outcome? What's the one thing you could do differently to and again, the end of the question, create a better outcome, a better outcome. What resources or support would help you make progress? Rather than hard to improve, you're saying help you to make progress. And again, why would it be difficult for you to get any better? What small steps can you take today to move you closer to your goals? Closer to your goals. So they're fundamental questions. And they switch it from a problem to solution, which is now a better sort of conversation that you'll be having with the individuals. Okay. In conclusion, the whole idea of dealing with conflict is recognizing the problem, recognizing how big it is, how deep it is, and getting motivated to sort it out. Then it's the preparation. Preparation reduces anxiety. Preparation takes that anxiety away because you're in the right frame of mind and you make things happen at your pace. And then move to resolution. Resolution, get things sorted out, improve the culture, improve your staff turnover, and improve your profits. So it's motivation, preparation, and resolution. Fire up your motivation, do the preparation, do the resolution. And you change the elephant from unresolved conflict to Nelly, I'm resolved. So Nelly's in a better place. That's it. Thank you very much for staying to the end. Appreciate it. Nice to see you all.